Okay, I am in a good space. I think we're ready to go with this. I'm excited about today's show. Hey, everybody, I am Daddy Sam, and this is A Touch of Gay, episode 56 for the 26th of April, 2026. Today, we've got a lot of stuff to talk about, exciting stuff and some stuff that might make you angry, but important stuff you need to know about, and that is a police raid in Dallas on a communion party, Mr. Texas leather titles and Mr. Australia leather title. A little bit of news there. And of course, we're going to talk about the upcoming International Mr. Leather Contest. So before we get into it, I always like to cover one of our memes from this week's social media, which can be found A Touch of Gay Pod on Facebook, Threads, Instagram, and Blue Sky. We don't do the X because it's toxicity in our system. And this week's meme or inspiration, depending on what you like to call them, simply says this: our sex can be a beautiful, violent joy. And that is from Leo Herrera from his book, Analog Cruising. Now, before I go any further with this, diving deep into a little bit more background on what this means to me, is that we're not talking about violence like hurting people. Leo, in his book, Analog Cruising, celebrates our gay sex culture. He not only educates about it, but there is a lot of poetry in there that talks about the beauty and the right that we have as gay men in our sexual culture. And he talks about, in the context of this particular quote, the fact that we were brought up in a world, a mainstream world, that told us that our gay sex is dangerous and will kill us. We might get AIDS. We might get beat up and killed by somebody. We might be in a bathhouse or a sex party that's raided. We might end up dead from drugs or some other thing. And this was popularized, or has been popularized, and many movies and stories out there, Cruising with Al Pacino being one of them, where that movie depicts gay kinky sex as being something that ends in drugs and crime and sadness and all of that. Most movies that feature this as a topic have that as a storyline. Very few happy endings when it comes to our life and culture around sex. So when we look at our sex and we are able to finally get to a point where we enjoy it, there's still that little bit of a taboo edge to it in our minds that can make it a violent joy. And that does get to a little bit of the primal, the feral, the animalistic intensity that we can have as men, between men. There's joy in that if we can set our shame aside, we can stop worrying about all of what mainstream society has told us and really let it flow. So I just wanted to share that quote with you because it comes from a great source. I'm a fan of Leo. I love the book and I follow him on social media. His social media is right there on the screen. And there should also be an image of his book floating around here on the screen. If you're watching, it's on our YouTube channel. This is a book that I have read and I just absolutely love it because it's good news. It's affirming news. It's poetry in a world where we're getting exactly the opposite out there in our culture. I'm glad to share that with you, and just make sure you listen, watch, and read, and don't just see that word violent and go way down the wrong path with the meaning of it. Now, I want to check in real quick before we get into our content today. It's crazy season. Woof! And I'm talking about we're getting into spring and summer, and in the gay world, if you're involved in the culture, in the LGBTQ plus community, this is when things really get crazy, really get busy. I would look at my phone and my Google Calendar for the next couple of months, and it's already getting populated with this is happening on Saturday, that's happening on Sunday, this is happening on Friday, I'm gone out of town for this week. And it's exciting, but it gets stressful too, because when somebody comes up and says, hey, can we get together for coffee? I have to pull out my phone and start looking at my calendar for holes in there in my weeks to find a space to fit somebody in. And it's not because I'm important. It's not because I'm self-important or I have so much to do. I'm just too busy for you. It's not that. It's that when you really dive in and involve yourself in the community, you get good busy. And most of the things on my calendar aren't things like circuit parties or, the latest, greatest man thing that you see on Instagram. I do a lot of service work in my community, as does my husband. We are involved with some of the local clubs and organizations, and you get busy when you start sinking your toes into the mud of life and being involved in it all, which I absolutely love. It's exciting, but it's also stressful. It's also stressful to have, another thing I need to put on the calendar. Okay. And so there are very few weekends in this season I can look at and there's just time to lay around and do nothing. And so I'm starting to feel that anticipation and that double-edged sword of anticipation and angst. The crazy season. And one of those things is IML coming up, but I'm going to talk about that here a little bit later, but that's about 3 weeks away. And we're starting to get prepared, get our ducks in a row and make sure we're ready to go on the trip financially, that we have all of the clothes and the garments we want to take with us. I actually have a few leather pieces that I am going to try to make. I'm going to find holes in my Google Calendar to spend time making some leather garments because I put on a little bit of weight since I have purchased a lot of the leather that I have and made the leather like I'm wearing right now. I made this vest. I just want a couple pieces that I can take that just are slightly larger and a little bit more complimentary and don't look so small on me. So that's something I'm trying to fit into my calendar here in the next 3 weeks. And the last thing I'll share with you, just on a personal note, I have a day job that I do that's outside of this. Things are crazy out there in the work world. I work in a healthcare setting and I work in a data backend setting, which means I don't deal with retail. And one of the things that's been happening with this big company I work for is that they've been implementing AI everywhere. And so what that means is with the hundreds of people that the company has employed in this particular workspace that I am in, AI is quickly encroaching upon the workload that we have. The company's looking at, okay, now what do we do? Because we don't have anything for a lot of these people to do. So they are moving us around to different departments. They are training us for new tasks. They are reorganizing and trying to cross-train everybody so that they don't have to lay people off, to put it bluntly. And it's scary for one, but a month ago, they trained me for a new task. And it was a completely different thing that I was used to doing, another department, and it's something exciting like insurance billing for healthcare. Doesn't that sound exciting? Oh my God, I just have passion for it. No, I don't. But nonetheless, it's a good job. But it was a scary new thing that I had to be trained for. And so I was already on pins and needles about that. And then a week later, they transfer me to that department. And a week later, they tell me, oh, we need you to train the next group of people coming in. Yeah, isn't that fun? I just learned it. I barely know what I'm doing, and I'm training another group of people. So I had to do that this week. Stressful. So I'm training people that I used to work with in the old department. And thank God most of them knew me, and we already had a rapport, and they were forgiving about the fact that I had to tell them, look, folks, I just learned this a couple weeks ago myself, and so we're still all learning together. And still, though, it was stressful. And it was like, oh, God, I can't wait till this is over. And as I sit here today, it's over. But that is something, especially as we get older, we have to learn how to adapt. We have to learn how to take what comes to us. And we have to just sometimes muster the courage and in my case, a little bit of a let my ego and pride go and just tell everybody, I don't have a clue what I'm doing, but I'm here to tell you how to do it. And that's kind of kooky. So that's my check-in for today. Something very important that did happen last week that I think our community needs to be aware of and be thinking about. A communion sex party down in Dallas got raided last week on Friday the 17th. Dallas police raided this event, detaining dozens of men and ultimately arresting 2 of them. Police say that the raid was part of an initiative targeting sexually oriented businesses. The venue, Space Studios, just off Harry Hines Boulevard, says it hosts everything from birthday parties to anniversaries to adult kink parties. Now, we know these kinds of venues. I have a number of them here in Phoenix. I've been to some of them in other towns where it's just everything. If you want to rent the space, you get to do your thing there. But some of them also do a lot of sex parties and events like that where maybe one day there's a bar mitzvah in there, the next day there's a quinceañera, and the next day there's slings in there and everyone's going at it. Fun, right? Well, this is one of those events. Now, 48 men were detained. Police seized a load of drugs, including 27 grams of marijuana, 671 grams of psilocybin mushrooms and 11,000 grams of hash oil. What's going on here? They also seized $11,000 in cash, multiple computers, hard drives, other electronics, as well as pleasure devices, and a cargo van believed to be used in the production of pornography. So this was going to be a big, crazy party, quite clearly, under the Communion brand name. Now, Communion, if you're familiar with it, is a brand. It is a franchise. There are events all over the country at various types of venues, from bathhouses to rented warehouse spaces. Each one of these events isn't necessarily put on by the Communion people HQ, as they're just lending their name. It's a marketing branding thing. When you go there, most often it is put on by local people. I've been to a couple of these events. I've been to one at a bathhouse, and I've also been to one in a rented warehouse space. So I've been to these types of things. I know what they look like. What I can tell you is the ones that you might find at a bathhouse or a sex club place that's already designed and built and set up for that tend to be just like going to that place on any other day of the week, except that you got a little bit of a theme and everyone's got a different attitude going, and maybe they have some merch and swag there. The ones that are in the warehouses tend to be a little grittier, right? Because everybody shows up and it's just a different vibe. It's fun, but it's an edgy vibe nonetheless. So in this particular raid, they detained 48 people. They let everybody go that didn't have drugs or other types of things on them, but they did arrest 2 people, the organizers. One was the owner of the venue, according to the news in the Dallas Observer, and that person was charged with a lot of these drug charges. So it appears that the owner of the venue might have maybe been doing some business there. I don't know that for a fact, but that appears to be the case. The other person arrested was the actual event organizer. And what police are saying is that this was a raid and these were arrests based on the fact that they did not have the proper permits for this type of event. Whether that was their motivation, permit enforcement, or whether they just wanted to go in and bash and crash a gay sex party, I'm not going to go there. I think I'll let you put your own ideas together on that. This was part of a larger initiative, the Dallas police said, on cracking down on sex parties and things like that, for safety, of course, safety for the community. I think my takeaways from this are 2 things. The first is, having been to some of these events, if you're organizing one of these things, be very careful about how you proceed, because you want to make sure that all your legal dots are taken care of. You want to make sure that if there is a permit required, that you get one, because you don't want to give the police a reason other than just being bigoted bastards to come crash your party. You don't want that. And the other thing I would say is, if you're going to be having drugs around, be very careful, because the police could raid this thing. That not only goes for an organizer, but that goes for a participant. If you're going to walk into one of these events or parties with anything illegal on you, just be aware of the fact that you could be walking away in handcuffs if the police decide to show up. I wouldn't say that if you are a participant, if you are somebody who is going to go and pay a cover charge for this event, that you are necessarily yourself at legal risk. But the bottom line is, some of these events aren't always legal. And there are a lot of sex parties around the country that I see advertised on social media, in the big cities in particular. New York has them like every day of the week, all day long. And some of the bigger cities like Los Angeles, even here in Phoenix, we have a various number of parties that come up every month. And some of them are at a rented venue or at a local venue down the street that is not a bathhouse, that is not a sex club per se, but they host communion parties. They hold, there's another one called Drain Your Nut, which is sort of out of the Southwest by Big Dipper. I would just say that if you're that person promoting these things, maybe have your lawyer look at this and look into the city and the county and make sure that you're covering all your bases, because some of these things can be sketch when it comes to what are they legal or not. There is a blurred line out there that can be crossed between solicitation, prostitution. You ought to know about that if you're out there and you're playing the game. If you're not playing the game, then, well, maybe you don't have to worry about it. But know that the Dallas police are out there looking for gay sex parties to bust. So let's talk about good stuff. We have leather news this week because it's crazy season. A lot of events are coming up. just last week, it was Austin Kink Weekend. Now, we've talked about that event here on the show. I promoted it because it's getting to be a big force in the leather community on the national scale. When you go to certain events around the country, everybody from around the country is there. And when I say everybody, I mean a lot of the key figures and leaders and people that participate in these things. You'll see a lot of familiar faces there that you might see also in Cleveland and Chicago and LA and New York and Washington, D.C. And Austin Kink Weekend is getting to be a big one. It's a multiple day weekend. There's a lot of parties. There's a lot of talks, a lot of panels and discussions. More importantly, there's also the big leather contest that hatches the Mr. Texas Leather titles. And I just want to congratulate Rodrigo. Oh my heavens, is he not handsome? He is the new Mr. Texas Leather 2026. Also, I want to congratulate Ty and Bootputt Maximus, who are the new Mixed Texas Leather and Texas Boot Black. They have a number of titles out of this event. And just congratulations to everybody, because this is a big event to come out with a title. And Mr. Texas Leather will have the opportunity to go forward and compete at a future IML event in Chicago. So congratulations to all of you. Beautiful job. And I also want to throw a shout out to Cal, Mr. Australian Leather 2026. Just happened recently. He's also quite a handsome chap, is he not? Or to put it in terms of Australia, he's a handsome bloke. I like to highlight people that are winning titles because they worked hard to do it. They represent our community. And that's basically what the title's all about. They will move forward as a representative of the community for the coming year at local events, regional events, and they may move on to IML to compete for a international title. I don't see every single leather contest on my social media and on my news feeds. So if you're someone out there that just went to a local leather contest, maybe you're an organizer of one of them, please do send me an email, drop me a line, let me know about it, because I'd like to highlight these people that have gone to the trouble and they've gone to the hard work to win these things. daddysam@atouchofgay.com. That's my email, daddysam@atouchofgay.com. So yeah, please do send me that. And we're going to close out our episode today with a plug for an event. And it's one that I plugged before, but because it is the big one and it's coming up in about 3 weeks, it's International Mr. Leather in Chicago, May 21st through the 25th. Now, it actually kind of goes on a little bit more from the earlier part of that to the later part of that, but those are the official dates. It's almost a week-long event in Chicago at the Congress Plaza Hotel is the headquarters. They rent out the entire hotel for this, which means that you walk past security with your armband to get into the hotel, and virtually anything goes inside that property. Not everything goes, but virtually. It is a near week-long event that has parties, events, workshops, panels, and of course the International Mr. Leather Contest, which itself spans a couple of days. Then there's the victory party, the black and blue ball at the Jackhammer this year. Woof. Yeah, if you've never been to the Jackhammer, that's an experience. I definitely intend to go again this year. I can't even begin to say on YouTube or the podcast platforms what goes on there. It is an amazing, fun space. And they do have their permits, by the way. If this is something that has just interested you and you're like, God, I just want to go and check it out and see if I fit in there, this is one of the best events to go to because of the fact that there are so many various parts of the community that show up. And it's not just the police-looking guy in leather or the biker-looking guy in leather. There are many different areas of interest in kink, from rubber to sports gear to puppies to ABDL, plenty of opportunity for people, not just cisgender males. There are a lot of trans participants in this event, non-binary, and women. There are even some heterosexual people that show up to this event. And the reason I bring this up again 3 weeks out from the event is because there are still tickets available. You can get the full pass for the entire week, or you can just get a vendor pass, go in and see all of the leather, fetish, and kink vendors. It's a huge vendor mart, probably one of the largest in the world, that happens every year. Almost every major manufacturer of apparel, toys, products, anything that you would use as a product or want to buy that fits into the LFK community, you're going to find at this vendor mart. And so it's worth going just for that, because you're never going to find all of these things in one place at this scale anywhere else. But The event does cover the contest. There are dozens of parties, not only at the hotel, but all over town. Boys Town, just right up the road from where the hotel is, where all of the bars and clubs, Steamworks. One of the parts and pieces to this week in Chicago is a pretty healthy budget for transportation, because where all of the clubs and bars are is about a 20-minute Lyft or Uber ride from the hotel. And you get to pay for that both directions, most of the time during peak hours. So it's just part of the deal. If you want to go this year and stay there, the Congress Plaza Hotel is full. They do have a waiting list. If you go to the International Mr. Leather website, the link is on the screen. It's internationalmrleather.com, also down in the show notes. You're going to find that the hotel is full, but they do have a wait list. They do have other hotels in the neighboring area. The Travelodge is literally across the street. I understand there are still rooms available there, and it's a little bit less expensive as well, but there are other hotels nearby. So now is the time, if you decide you want to go to Chicago and experience this, now is the time to make your plans, because time is getting near, and I really hope to see some of you there. This is an event I go to every year. My husband and I, it's hard to see there, but we had our wedding there a few years ago at the event. And it was an amazing experience to have our marriage ceremony within our community. And almost everybody in the audience was clad in leather in various states. And it was just a magical experience for us to share that with our community and our chosen family. So that is our episode for today. I encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. I encourage you to subscribe to our podcast. You can find our podcast virtually anywhere that podcasts can be found, on all of the major food groups of podcast platforms, in addition to YouTube if you like to watch. And you can also follow us on social media, all of the major food groups of social media: Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and of course, Blue Sky. We don't do the X. Why? Well, you can take a guess. We can also be found on gayphx.com, a streaming gay radio station that plays music. They have interviews. They have content like our podcast. This podcast airs every Monday at 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, which right now, with the time being what it is the same as Pacific Time. And they also play our best of episodes every weekday at 10 a.m. So I want to thank gayphx.com for their support. And I support them back, because I know the people that run that station, and they're beautiful. And I love them, just like I love all of you. So if you are watching us on YouTube, you can see our latest video right there to my left, your right. You can also subscribe right there below that. And as I mentioned before, if you're listening to us on podcast, please do subscribe and leave us a good rating. Either way, stay tuned.